The idea was to create this bank of listening materials that would be available to teachers and students, and it will be delivered online. It will be based on the proficiency levels as opposed to based on the content of any specific Arabic textbook.
We have a lot of students on this campus who are from India, and it seemed to us a good idea to try and develop a large array of interviews with such people to see how they are using Hindi in their everyday lives, to get recordings of them in everyday conversation, addressing questions about what it felt like to come here to the US, what sort of cultural differences are perceived, how language plays a role in that, and really just to capture on film precisely the kinds of conversational Hindi which are really useful for learners to listen to and to watch.
Picture Perfect Pinyin is an interactive exercise for Mandarin Chinese pronunciation. There's no good or adequate materials out there. You will find materials that's full of linguistic jargons and those incomprehensible diagrams. Even lots of teachers would say that they don't understand. So I want to create something that's easy to understand.
Essentially, this is a new concept. The idea is to do collaborative reading, because most people think of reading as this very a private mental activity, internal activity, but this opens it up using web technology to a collaborative enterprise. So the idea really is you take your class and you turn your class into a meaning-making team. Everybody's talking to everybody, going through different parts of the text, annotating, tagging, so the whole thing becomes very dynamic.
You know, there are tons of models out there for how to study cultural issues that come out. And I've always done that Les Kant model, 7 little topics, language, environment, social context, that sort of thing, gives you something to latch on to. You know, I see all the time these students who are abroad, they go, oh, that's real cute, or that's funny, or that's weird. The second you learn this model, you can say, it's not really weird, it is, this is a culture that focuses on context differently. This is a culture that does authority differently. This is a culture that looks at time differently.
We made a rough approximation of what the guidelines, the proficiency guidelines do, just so that we can illustrate them in a very straightforward way to the future Spanish teachers. A lot of them have never thought about what a beginner sounds like. Some of them who were beginners at one time in the 6th grade or whatever have forgotten how they sounded, and they have different expectations of what beginners sound like. So it was good for them to, everyone, the native speakers as well, to go back and see what the different developmental stages are in learning.
We're looking at the way people speak in terms of language use, in terms of language proficiency in 2 languages. So we're looking at bilinguals. We want to know in which language people are functional, in which language they are comfortable, in which language they identify themselves. This is not a static target, it's a moving target. And for researchers, for people in schools, for government, for public policy, all this kind of information can be very valuable.
Este proyecto se enfoca en el español que se habla actualmente en Texas y nos interesa especialmente la variación que se da entre los hablantes, porque no todos hablan de la misma manera.
All of language is social. It's all socially embedded, and I think too much of the teaching materials that are out there now are done with this idea of some imagined language. And in Texas, it's particularly the case that these students are not going to be in contact in their everyday lives with the language envisioned by the textbook writers.
Queremos dar muestra a los estudiantes, a las maestras, también a los padres, de que lo que ellos hablan es su idioma, es algo que podemos usar en la clase, que debemos valorar por lo que es el español de Texas.